Hello and welcome back to First and 10 Playoff Edition. First off, just want to say thank you to all of those people who have reached out and talked about, this podcast that I've been trying to work with. It's been quite a while since the last one. Had a lot of stuff going on, but we're getting through it and we're back. So, for those of you who may not remember, we'll go over 4 different topics that relate to the NFL or sporting in general. In order to kick it off naturally, we're going to talk about the NFL playoffs first. So we have all the playoff seedings finished. Obviously, you can tell where my allegiance lies. If you can't, well, we have something else to worry about. But anyways, we'll start off in the AFC. Kansas City Chiefs, no surprise, took the number 1 seed. Patrick Mahomes, well, it's all next to him, naturally. He is by far the best quarterback in the NFL right now. He's not statistically the best, but when you look at what he's done this season, there's no doubting that he is the best quarterback in the league. He's not going to win the MVP, nor should he. He hasn't had nearly the same statistical success as some of the other candidates, but it's a topic for later. So number 2 seed, the Buffalo Bills. Number 3, the Baltimore Ravens. Number 4, yours truly, the Houston Texans here. Let's go. Number 5, the Chargers. 6, the Steelers. 7, the Broncos. Sorry for the cat butt. So 7 Broncos. Yeah. So to start the playoffs, we start today at 4:30. The Texans and the Chargers go head to head. Naturally, I'm going to say the Texans are going to win. Texans are a 3-point underdog in this game. I do realize that Houston's been playing like absolute garbage as of late, but there's no time like the present to turn it around. So, with that being said, I think Joe Mixon will play a crucial role in this game. I think CJ's got to, trust in his run game, trust his wide receivers outside of Nico Collins to make plays. Nico and Joe can't win the game. It's got to be a whole team effort, and they have to really kind of come together and make something happen. Because if they don't, well, they're as good as finished. Now, the next game on the docket would be the Steelers and the Ravens. Obviously, they're playing in Baltimore. Baltimore's the 3 seed. Division winners have home field advantage, so Houston's at home too. But Baltimore and the Steelers, this could be a potential upset here. The Baltimore Ravens will not have Zay Flowers, the only real wide receiver that they have. So that could play a role. Derrick Henry's, if they can stop Derrick and Lamar from running the ball, the Steelers have a chance to win this game. I do think that it's very hard to top a team 3 times in one season. I do believe the Steelers always play the Ravens very tough. And that's why I'm going to pick the Pittsburgh Steelers and Russell Wilson to win this game. I just don't know if Lamar has it in him. Granted, he is, again, one of the top quarterbacks in the game. I just think Mike Tomlin and that defense is going to be a little tougher. Now, don't get me wrong, the Steelers aren't going to win the Super Bowl. They're not going to make it much farther. But I think the Steelers have the best shot at an upset. And that's why I'm picking the Steelers today. So far we have 2 underdogs, the Houston Texans, which shouldn't be an underdog, but they are, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now the next game, the 1:00 game Sunday, the Buffalo Bills are at home against the Denver Broncos. Now, this game, people say that it could be a lot closer than we think. I think if it is, it's because Buffalo's playing down to the talent of the Broncos. Buffalo should run away with this game without question. Josh Allen should be the MVP, and I shouldn't say that because Saquon should be the MVP, but he's not going to because it always goes to a goddamn quarterback. But anyhow, I think the Buffalo Bills will topple the Denver Broncos tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Now, here's the deal with the NFC. All right, we've got the Lions at 1, Eagles at 2, Bucks at 3, Rams at 4, Vikings at 5, Commanders at 6, Pack at 7 against the Eagles. All right, 8. 8 o'clock is the Commanders, 4 o'clock is the Eagles. Sorry, my bad. Now, there is a scenario where all 6 of these matchups where the lower seeded team could very easily win. I kind of placed a bet just for shits and giggles, taking the underdog in every game. Bet $10 to win $200,000. So we'll see if that plays out. Probably won't, but it's $10 to win $200,000. I had to take the chance. Anyhow, back to the seeding here. So we have the Rams at 4, the Vikings at 5. Vikings finished the season 14-3. Now I think the NFL might have a slight seeding problem. I understand why they do it the way they do. Division winners should obviously get a home game. It makes sense. I get it. But when you have a team that went 14-3 and has to go on the road, I mean, come on. The Vikings are hands down a much better team on paper than the Rams. The only thing the Rams have that the Vikings really don't is a better quarterback. Quarterbacks win you games. Matt Stafford's been there. He's won a Super Bowl. I think the Rams can easily put up a fight against the Vikings. I think it's going to come down to the coaching and the defense, and I think I trust Brian Flores and the Vikings defense just a little more than I do the Rams. So I'm going to take the Vikings to topple the Rams in that game. So next we're going to have the Buccaneers and the Commanders, the 3 seed versus the 6 seed. Now I would love to see Jaden Daniels get a playoff win in his first year. However, Baker Mayfield and the Bucs have looked really good. They have. I'm not saying I'm going to take the Buccaneers yet. I haven't quite really kind of figured out who I like in this game. But for the sake of this, we're going to say that the Washington Commanders will give them a win. We'll say it's going to be a 3-point game. Todd Bowles, he likes to blitz. Jaden Daniels is one of the top mobile quarterbacks of this year. I think when Todd Bowles brings the blitz, Jaden can escape. They're 20 of 23 on 4th down. I believe Jaden Daniels had 77 pass yards, 86 rush yards, and 2 touchdowns on 4th down alone. And they went 20 of 23. That led the NFL. Okay. I saw that on Fox Sports there. Now, Commanders win that one. So far we have the Vikings and the Commanders in the NFC. Now the Eagles-Packers, I was not happy to see Saquon Barkley sit for that last game. I wanted to see Saquon go for that rushing title. Some people would say, oh, well, it'll have an asterisk next to it. Well, it shouldn't. Because Saquon Barkley got to the 2,000 rushing yards and 40 less carries than Eric Dickerson had. He did it in less snaps. Granted, he would have had one more game to do it, okay? It shouldn't have had an asterisk next to it. They should have let him get it because they're not going to make the Super Bowl. They are a favorite to make the Super Bowl, but they're not going to. However, I do think the Eagles beat the Packers. I think Saquon Barkley goes for 2 touchdowns. Josh Jacobs for the Packers will get 1. So that means the 2 seed, the Eagles, would play the 5th seeded Vikings. The 3rd seeded Buccaneers would travel to Detroit. to take on. Well, actually, no. The Vikings would play the Lions. The Eagles would play the Bucks. Right. Vikings are 5. They go to Detroit. Bucks or Commanders are 6. Oh, yeah. Lions, Commanders. I was right the first time. Lions and Commanders. And then the Vikings and the Eagles. Should have just trusted myself in the first place, but I'm an idiot, so, there's that. Anyhow, I do think that the Lions will wipe the floor with the Commanders. I do think the Vikings would beat the Eagles. So we would have a Lions-Viking NFC Championship game with the Lions beating the Vikings once again. Putting the Lions in the Super Bowl for the first time ever. Now, let's go back to the AFC. All right, Texans 4 seed, moving on. I said we were going to take the Ravens, the 3 seed, so we'd have Ravens-Texans. We'd have the Ravens and the Bills, the Texans and the Chiefs. Chiefs beat Houston. I think the Bills would beat the Ravens, so we'd have the Chiefs and the Bills, with Buffalo winning, finally making it to the Super Bowl for a Detroit-Buffalo Super Bowl. Now, if I were a betting man, I would take the Bills in that game. However, I do like the Lions. I think there's just something about Dan Campbell, man. That guy can coach, and that team has been phenomenal. Aiden Hutchinson could return, for those of you who don't know. Aiden Hutchinson's that left tackle. He's been out since, I think, week 5 with a torn ACL. If he comes back for the Super Bowl, watch out. All right. There's our playoff predictions. Now on to the next second topic. Second down. We currently have 6, I believe, head coaching openings in the NFL. We have the Chicago Bears, the New England Patriots, the Vegas Raiders, the New York Jets, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the New Orleans Saints. Now, the most appealing of these jobs, in my personal opinion, would be the Patriots and the Bears. I think the Raiders would come a close third. And I say that just because this offseason the Patriots have $126.13 million in cap space available. That's the most in the NFL. The Vegas Raiders have $97.79 million available, and the Bears have $66.63 million available. It's all about the additions you can afford to make. The Patriots and the Bears have quarterbacks, so they don't need that. They need other things like wide receivers, and we'll get into the team needs later. To put that in perspective, a team like the Jaguars currently has just under $40 million in cap space. The New Orleans Saints are $66.03 million over the cap, which means they have negative money and they need to clear out $66 million before they can spend any money on anybody else. Okay, so in theory, you would think naturally the Saints' job isn't great. However, they have a quarterback, they have a wide receiver, they have a defense, they have multiple pieces there. They don't need to spend a lot of money. They can build through the draft, but I still just don't think they're quite the best job on the market. I think the Jags and the Jets are the 2 worst. The reason I think the Jets is one of the worst is because you have a 41-year-old quarterback who's not even sure he wants to play anymore. Aaron Rodgers is single-handedly the biggest issue with the Jets. Follow that with Woody Johnson and the ownership group, all right? Now, I do think the Jets could have potential to be a good job, but with, the talent that's available, there's not going to be a good free agent class. It's going to be one of the worst because there's not a lot of big names on the market this year. But I do think I would put the Jags over the Jets just because they have Trevor Lawrence. He's a young quarterback. He's not quite what we thought they were going to be, but he's okay. Now, let's try to fill these head coaching jobs. All right? Let's start with the Saints. Okay, the best thing the Saints could do for Derek Carr, for the team, is to bring in a young up-and-comer, not somebody who's a retread. You don't want to see Pete Carroll in New Orleans. You want to see maybe like a Bobby Slowick from Houston or what's his name, that Arizona State coach guy, Kenny Dillingham or something like that. He could be good there. Someone who's a hot shot offensive play caller who's okay dealing with Mickey Loomis. Realistically, you're not going to have say in a whole lot of personnel decisions. And as a new head coach, it might be a perfect opportunity to take and learn. So let's slate, somebody like that in there. Now let's go to the Jets. Honestly, I think the best thing the New York Jets could do would be to bring back Rex Ryan. Okay? He knows New York. He has a relationship with Woody Johnson. There's not going to be any issues there. The issue is going to be Aaron Rodgers. And I think if Rex Ryan comes back, Aaron Rodgers won't. If Rex Ryan is there, Aaron Rodgers will likely say, cut me, trade me, release me, do whatever the hell you got to do, get me out of here. Because he doesn't want to deal with Rex Ryan and the whole culture shift that's going to come with it. All right, so we're going to put Sexy Rexy back in New Jersey with the Jets. Now, the Jaguars. I think they need a defensive guy because the defense is not great there in Jacksonville. You give me a Brian Flores there, I think he'd be great. He's already got a quarterback. He doesn't have to worry about that. He can bring in an offensive play caller, and they'll be fine. It's a winnable division. It really is. You have Houston, Jacksonville, Indianapolis, Tennessee. Indianapolis and Tennessee, they're not going anywhere. They're not doing anything. The only real problem you have to worry about is C.J. Stroud and the Texans, all right? It's a winnable division. They could do it if they just hired the right person. The ownership group is what scares me there. I don't like Shad Khan. It's just because he's impatient and he doesn't have a good track record with how he runs his front office, especially since they're keeping Trent Baalke, who they probably should have just cleaned house and got rid of both. They got rid of Peterson. They should have gotten rid of Baalke. I like Peterson as a coach. I think he'll get a job elsewhere, but we'll get into that. With the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, you could say, all right, well, why would the Raiders want to go with somebody like Peterson? Well, they need a quarterback. You let Dougie P pick his quarterback. They have a decent draft spot. We'll get to that. But you bring in a quarterback, you bring in the coach who can work with the quarterback. You rebuild that whole team. You let Dougie P have his say in who goes where, who gets what. It could work. Antonio Pierce was never the right choice. I mean, I liked him. He was great as an intern, but after that first season, you could tell he was in over his head. And they had to let him go, and they did. Doug Peterson to the Raiders, Kenny Dillingham to the Saints, Sexy Rexy to the Jets, Brian Flores to the Jags. That leaves 2 jobs left. Let's talk the one job where we basically already know who's going to be there, and that's the New England Patriots. Let's be real. They brought in Byron Leftwich and Pep Hamilton for head coaching visits because they don't have a job and they can get in there before the divisional round. So Rob Kraft can go ahead and say, Mike Vrabel, come on down. Shouldn't be a surprise. Mike Vrabel will be the head coach of the New England Patriots moving forward. What's concerning is that he doesn't quite have an offensive coordinator in mind yet. I'm afraid they're going to backtrack and take a look at like a Josh McDaniels. That would scare me. Okay, that would scare me a lot because it would not be good for Drake May. Now you have Drake May in place. You can go out and get a guy like T. Higgins, who's going to be on the market, depending he doesn't get, tagged again or tagged in general. Okay, you can go out, build up your offensive line. You're not going to get Travis Hunter because you won that last game when you should have lost. You freaking idiots. Ugh. Anyhow, we'll get into that stuff later. Let's talk Chicago. In case you haven't noticed, there's one name that I haven't really mentioned yet, and that would be the offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, for the Detroit Lions. I think if he were to take any job, the Chicago Bears job would be the best one he could take. You already have a quarterback in Caleb Williams. All right? Look what you did with Jared Goff, man. Everyone thought Goff was dead. Let's be real. And then you worked some magic and you made Jared Goff a legitimate threat in the NFC. And now look at you. You're the hottest coaching candidate in the league. The Bears have one of the hottest young quarterbacks. They have plenty of cap space. You could easily build a roster around. They have a high draft pick. They have talent. They've got Keenan Allen, DJ Moore. They have a good defense. Terrell Edmonds, TJ Edwards. Granted, it is getting a little old. Sorry for the intrusions here, Pearl. Get out of the way, Pearl. Anyhow, I do think that the Bears job will go to Ben Johnson of the Detroit Lions. Now, in talking of free agency, we're going to kind of just give a quick rundown of the top free agents on the market, just so you have a rough idea of who's available. The number one free agent on the market, T. Higgins, Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver. Number two, Trey Smith, a guard from Kansas City. Yes, he's been good. I don't think he leaves Kansas City, though. Number three, Javon Holland, safety for the Miami Dolphins. Sorry, I guess Pearl just wants to be a guest today, so she's gonna leave her there at this point. As long as she stops touching stuff. Number four, Chris Godwin of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Granted, he has injury history. I think he could get paid wide receiver one money somewhere. Do I think his success will translate? No. I think Mike Evans has a lot to do with why he's been so successful. But he'll find that out the hard way if he leaves somewhere and goes to a place like Las Vegas. Number five, Khalil Mack, Los Angeles Chargers. I think he leaves the Chargers. Maybe he goes home to Vegas. Mm-hmm. Or maybe he goes to a place like Chicago, or back to Chicago, I should say. Or New England. New England needs pass rushers. They have money. They can afford him. Number six, DJ Reed with the Jets. 7, Amari Cooper with the Bills. The Bills will be stupid not to bring him back and have him for a full season. Give Josh Allen an actual legitimate quarterback option. Wide receiver there. Number 8, Ronnie Stanley. Number 9, Sam Darnold. Number 10, Josh Sweat of the Eagles. It's going to be interesting to see what the Vikings do with Sam, just because they have J.J. McCarthy sitting in wait, and they have options. But do you really want to pay Sam Darnold? That's going to be the big question. Is Sam Darnold worth $40 million a year? In my opinion, Pearl, he is not. But I don't make those decisions, so it's not my call. Now, number 11, Stephon Diggs of the Houston Texans. Do I think Houston should keep him? I think we should. I don't think we will. I think he's going to want to test the market, get his name out there, see what he can bring in. He's getting old, but he can still get paid. And knowing Houston, we don't like to spend big money. I do think that he's going to demand a big paycheck. But we have Nico and we have Tank, and I think we could be okay if we can keep them healthy. All right? So, that's third down for you. Now on to fourth down. Last but not least, we're going to discuss the NFL draft order and some potential candidates at each spot to fill some needs. Our draft order goes as follows. We can only go up to the pick 18 right now, simply because the rest of the spots have yet to be determined due to playoffs. So, pick 1 belongs to, drum roll please, the Tennessee Titans. Number 2, the Cleveland Browns. 3, the Giants. 4, the Patriots. 5, the Jaguars. 6, the Raiders. 7, Jets. 8, Panthers. 9, Saints. 10, Bears. 11, the 49ers. 12, Dallas. 13, Miami. 14, Indianapolis. 15, Atlanta. 16, Arizona. 17, Cincinnati. And then 18, the Seattle Seahawks. Now, what's the biggest need for the Titans, you may ask? It's easy. It's quarterback. Will Levis is not the answer. Mason Rudolph is not the answer. You have the number 1 pick. You either trade back with a team like the Las Vegas Raiders, who desperately need a quarterback, and get picks and just suck for another year, or you go ahead and you take the potential biggest name in the draft is Shedeur Sanders. That's what I would do. Personally, I'd trade it away, but if you're not going to trade it away, take Shedeur. So with this instance, we're not going to trade it any away. We can do one with potential trades on another episode in the offseason. I think the Titans stick with the number 1 pick. Well, they're going to have to because we're not doing trades here. And they take Shedeur Sanders. Number 2, the Cleveland Browns. Guess what? They're going Travis Hunter. They need an elite wide receiver. They can use another corner. Travis Hunter could fill both of those needs. Do I think he plays both ways in the NFL? I think he tries to, but I don't think it's going to work. And then they move him to one or the other. And I think he'll choose wide receiver because he can probably make more money as a wide receiver. Number 3, the New York Giants will select out of the University of Miami, Cam Ward, quarterback. Daniel Jones is gone. Tommy DeVito's not the answer. They need a quarterback. That's it. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, I do think at number 4, the Patriots have a lot of needs. However, there's one name that stands out among the others, in my opinion, and that is Teteroa McMillan from Arizona. He is a 6'5", 212 wide receiver. All right. The Patriots need a wide receiver. Okay, they can't have Mario Douglas being their main guy. No, you need a guy like Teteroa McMillan to fill that void, and I think he'll be there at 4. Problem solved. Now, number 5, the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's a certain corner out of the University of Michigan. His name is Will Johnson, 6'2", 202 pounds. I think he'll be a fine addition to that secondary there in Jacksonville. Now, number 6, the Las Vegas Raiders. Well, guess what, bud? I hate to say it, but you lost the top 2 quarterbacks in this draft. Do I think that there's another quarterback worthy of being drafted this high? No, there's not. So if they want a quarterback, they need to trade up and take one. But we're not doing trades right now, so the Raiders are going to select Kelvin Banks Jr. out of Texas, an offensive tackle, 6'4", 320 pounds. help shore up that offensive line for whatever, Kirk Cousins type quarterback they bring in the offseason. The New York Jets also need a quarterback. Big shock. However, there's not one currently available. So, the New York Jets will probably go with James Pierce Jr., the edge rusher out of Tennessee. It's the best player still available at that point. Carolina Panthers, hey man, you need some defense. You need some D tackles, you need some edge rushers, you need a wide receiver, you need a freaking center. Man, you need a lot. However, at this point, I think the best place for you is to take Abdul Carter, number 11, out of Penn State, 6'3", 252. I think he would be a clutch addition, especially after losing Brian Burns. You need to replace that production, and I think he's going to go a long way in helping you get that. Because if you can't put pressure on the quarterback, you're not going to be able to win games. The New Orleans Saints, well, you know what? They have Chris Olave, but let's give them another wide receiver here. Luther Burden III out of Missouri. Give Chris Olave a little partner in crime there. Chicago Bears, number 10. They desperately need some O-line help. Will Campbell out of LSU, protect Caleb Williams, problem solved. You keep Caleb Williams from being the most sacked quarterback for a second year in a row. I think they can improve their win totals with the right coach. And that'll go a long way in Caleb Williams' development. You need to protect him. If you can't protect him, why bother? Number 11, the San Francisco 49ers. Man, they haven't had a pick this high in quite some time. What do they need? Not a lot. Well, let's give them a nice edge rusher. All right? I get they have Bosa. They have linebackers. Let's give them Michael Williams out of Georgia, 6'5", 265. Pressure off both ends. I think it'll help out immensely. Now, number 12. The Dallas Cowboys. Oh, man, do they miss prime Zeke? Well, guess what? They're going to go with Ashton Jeanty out of Boise State to help get some production out of that running back room, because clearly they don't have a running back. And this is the first spot that guy can go to. Ashton Jeanty to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, number 13, the Miami Dolphins. They need some secondary help, so let's give it to them. Malachi Starks out of Georgia. He's a safety, 6'1", 205. Okay, shore up that secondary. Number 14 with the Indianapolis Colts. They need a guard. They need a tight end, cornerback, linebackers. There's a lot that they need, but I think we go Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame. He's a cornerback, 6 foot, 190. He's got the speed. He can cover. He'll be a good addition there, much as I want the Colts to continue to suck. Now, the Atlanta Falcons need an edge rusher. They need a safety, a corner, a center, and more help at the wide receiver spot, because all they really have is Drake London and Darnell Mooney. Names that should never really strike any fear into your heart. Let's give them Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver out of Ohio State. Now, the Arizona Cardinals need defense, and they need O-line help to keep Kyler Murray standing up. Let's give them O-line help today. Josh Simmons, tackle out of Ohio State. I think they can slide him into guard to fill more of a pressing need, and he could have some real good success there. Now, 17, Bengals. T. Higgins is going to potentially move on. Mike Gesicki, potential free agent. They need tackles, they need corners, they need O-line help all around. They need to keep Joey Burrow upright and healthy. We're going to give them Tyler Booker, guard from Alabama. Help shore up that offensive line. Next, the Seattle Seahawks. this is a sleeper team to take a quarterback a little too high. All right. They don't know what's going on with Geno. He's entering the final year of his contract. They could go ahead and draft somebody to kind of sit on the bench, learn behind him. Now, do I think that's what they're going to do? I don't know. If they're going to take a quarterback this early, I think the next best one available. Don't laugh. I know he didn't perform very well yesterday. Quinn Ewers out of Texas could be a solid fit in Seattle. I personally wouldn't take Quinn Ewers before the second or third round, but I think a team that's got the ability to sit him for a year, let him develop, let him learn behind Geno, it could be really good for him. Now, is that what I'd like to see happen? No. I would like Quinn Ewers to, fall a little bit, go to a team that's got to have him in a better position. But hey, what do I know, Now, Houston, I think they could be a real player to take someone in the second round or even in the first round, like Isaiah Bond out of Texas. Keep the kid in Texas. Bring him in. Give us a solid number 2 to Nico. Move Tank Dell into the slot. If that could happen, I'd be a very happy camper. But anyways, that's fourth down. That's the end of the show. I appreciate you guys listening. Go Texans. Let's watch some football today. Have a great day. Bye-bye.